Hey guys, it's CS Joseph with csjoseph.life doing another episode for season 10, and I believe it's episode 6, and that is how do ISTPs compare to ISFPs. Very important lecture for sensors, because we don't just focus on, the intuitives on this channel like so many other MBTI channels do. We actually give you the complete picture from top to bottom. And most people, for some reason, they get frustrated about that. They don't want to do that. It's like, well, man, I just wish, you just spend more time on them INFPs, and that way I can get all the information I want. But then again, folks, what about everybody else? What are we going to do as a result, right? So how about we just be fair to everybody, right? And then everyone gets their turn, right? And of course, if you think about it, wait a minute, season 10, season 14, season 21, right? Season 17, wait a minute. So at least on season 10, 14, and 21, we're all kind of doing the same types. Do you know what that means? That means, all of a sudden we're going to have a huge wave of INTJ content, and a huge wave of INFJ content, and a huge wave of INTP and INFP, etc., all at once. And just for a couple of weeks, it's just going to be constant introverted intuitive content, and it's just going to be flowing like crazy. You know what I'm saying? So why would that be, a problem, right? So the point is, folks, please be patient with us. It is coming, and we will have it delivered to you shortly. But in the meantime, we have to give credit where it is due and do our due diligence, and that is why we need to talk about ISFPs and ISTPs tonight. So, also, I realize that the Q&A session was canceled, and that's how it is, but Jab is sick and unavailable, so that's what we're doing, and then we'll see him back tomorrow. So Q&A is going to be postponed till tomorrow. Fair enough, it'll be what we have to do, and we'll get this handled in the direction that it needs to go. So anyway, let's talk about ISFPs and ISTPs. So what makes them so similar? Why do people have a hard time telling the difference between the two of them? Well, okay, for a lot of reasons. It's because they're both artisans. They literally have the same exact temperament, the same temperament. And this can get really difficult for people because they're both artisans. They're both freedom-based creators. They require freedom of creativity. Yeah, that's kind of like why I'm dressed like a mountain man right now, because I'm pretending to be an SP, if you know what I mean. But, and I even got the beard to go along with it. You know what I'm saying? I've got that very SPS look, Got the Cabela's. You can't even see my Carhartt pants right now, but I'm going all out here, folks. I'm definitely going all out, as if I'm going to be working outside all day long, when in reality it's just me doing the laundry. But we don't need to admit that to anyone now, do we? Anyway, ISPs, so they're both artisans, freedom-based creators. Freedom is everything. They cannot actually perform their creative process without having the freedom to be able to express that said creative process. It is absolutely required for their success, right? It's absolutely required, and that is what they need in order to make that happen, right? Well, what does that mean from a temperament point of view? So they're both pragmatic, so they value their independence. Instead of being affiliative, which is more interdependent, which means that they actually are going out of their way to ask forgiveness instead of permission, right? Because pragmatic SP types, it's like, well, I'm not going to ask permission from people. I'm just going to do it, and if people get upset, I'll just ask them for forgiveness. Instead of, the affiliative way of doing things, it's more like, okay, yeah, I need to ask people permission before I do things, right? And that's what the affiliative folk prefer. But SPs, they are not that way. They are independent. They are freedom-focused, so they are pragmatic. And without that pragmatism, they will not actually be able to create anything. You see what I'm saying? They need that to create. It's very, very important, okay? So they're also very interest-based. Interest means as an artisan, they always know what they're getting out of something. They always know or seek to know what other people are getting out of something. It's like, okay, what are we doing here? Why am I here? Why am I spending my time on this, etc.? How does that even work? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, oh, this is what you're getting out of it. This is what I'm getting out of it. Of course, then again, both these types have NE trickster, which makes it difficult and open to manipulation, especially by people who manipulate through contracts. So it's like ENFPs. You see what I'm saying? Read the fine print, guys. And that's what SPs have to do. They have to read the fine print, because when those ENFPs come around trying to manipulate them out of their money, because guess what? It happens, especially through contracts. Well, those SPs, especially those ISPs, are kind of weak to that because they have that expert intuition trickster. And the expert intuition trickster is like, Oh yeah, guys, I definitely see in other people's intentions, no problem, because I'm interest-based and I'm always aware of what everyone is going to get out of it, instead of me. And then they don't actually see the fact that there's like this huge elaborate plot behind the scenes, with those extrovert intuitive hero ENFPs. And because of that, they have no way to detect that. And then they're just kind of led, through a Xanatos gambit, manipulation, and then all of a sudden they're completely screwed out of everything that they own. And then they lose their business, and it's like, oh, what even happened? Oh, that's right. An ENFP showed up. And all of a sudden your family business doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the ENFP. Congratulations, because those ENFPs will just encroach over time. If you're not careful, make sure you read the fine print. That's how you protect yourselves. Trust what they say. Verify just in case. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I know I give ENFPs a lot of crap, but they also can be very, very amazing people, provided that they're not being selfish and they're actually being very charitable. Just remember the difference between charity versus generosity, right? Because people are like, now hold on. Those ENTJs, they have that generous virtue. But what is the difference between the generous virtue of the ENTJ and the charitable virtue of the ENFP? What's the difference? Well, let me tell you what the difference is, okay? Quality versus quantity. There's a higher quantity of being someone who is charitable. They have higher quantity with giving, higher frequency of giving, but with smaller gifts, smaller things, tokens of appreciation, small favors, right? Whereas the ENTJ, they're very generous, and they may only give once to a person, but it's a lot. Super high quality, but low frequency. That's the difference between generosity versus charity, and that's how both these types approach it with their virtue and vice. Why is that remotely relevant to this discussion? Because when you're looking from an extrovert intuitive trickster standpoint from an ISP, it's really hard for them to be able to tell the difference as to whether or not someone's actually being generous or actually being charitable. And you really, really, really have to make sure that they are looking into these ENFPs and finding a track record with these ENFPs such that they don't just get sold and manipulated or social engineered by these ENFPs who are potentially depraved, right? Now, a charitable ENFP, they probably wouldn't do this, but a depraved one absolutely would. So it's important to make sure that these ISPs are protected, because if they're not protected, they will open themselves up to attack, right? And all of a sudden you find all of everything that they ever owned completely taken out from under them, right? It's just as bad as, like, say, for example, a rando man coming into the family and marrying their daughter, and their daughter is like the only child in the family, and guess what? He technically inherits everything. He just kind of completely got in there, and then all of a sudden your grandchildren have nothing because he took everything and then he sold everything out from under you. Which is a thing. So be careful around those situations, right? So with that being said, they are artisans, right? So we talked about interest-based, we talked about pragmatism. They're also concrete. They live in the moment. They have to be very concrete because they're focused on the what is. How can they manipulate the physical environment without being focused on the what is? And they have to, because they'll just look at the what is, they'll look at what is and the physical environment. It's like, ooh, I see that hillside, and they can use their imagination with their introverted intuition, and then as a result of that imagination, it's like, oh, I can adjust this hillside. I'm going to go rent an excavator, and then I'm going to create a pond. And then all of a sudden, because I made this pond, I did it for my lover, and I got her a nice new pond. That way she feels more secure on our property, because all of a sudden now we have another source of water specifically for her and our family, right? And then all of a sudden she feels loved, and then he's respected because he esteemed himself by making this pond, and it's just a fantastic relationship. You know what I'm saying? Oh wait, that's almost exactly verbatim what I talked about in the last season 14, episode 5, when I was talking about the golden pairs, the ESFJ and the ISFP. Maybe y'all should get on Patreon and find out what that's all about so that you can have access to the golden pairs. You know what I'm saying? The golden pairs? Because it's, private for gold tier. So if you wanted to check out those private lectures, you go to Patreon gold tier. We were talking about romantic compatibility, folks. Season 14, check it out. Anyway, infomercial is done because we are coin operated here at CSJ. Let's continue. That's how they're the same, being artisans. How are they different? Interaction style. Interaction style is basically where the rubber meets the road between these two types. So interaction style speaking, you have direct, responding, movement with the ISTP. The ISTP is focusing on finishing things. finishing things. They have a really hard time starting things. This can lead to procrastination because they're just like, I have no idea what I want to do. I have no idea what I want to start. And then what really they need to do is go around people who are already doing things and then work to improve those things and understand what those other people are doing and get to a point where they're teaching those others as a result, right? The ISFP is very artistic, they're very background based, and they're really motivated by being as artistic and creative as they can and developing their creative process because they're very control based, right? Whereas the ISTP is very movement based, right? So what is the difference between movement and control, folks? Well, the ISTP has a master process that they provide for literally everything. Literally everything, a master process. So that when they deploy this process, guess what? Well, they're able to accomplish their goals specifically by applying the same process to literally everything, the same process of thinking to literally everything they do. And because they have that process dialed down and have developed over the years, they can move quickly with their decisions, moving from X point to Y point to Z point, and boom. And it's all there and it's fantastic. You see what I'm saying, folks? That is the difference, right? Whereas control, it's completely different. Control, they have an individual process per outcome that they want to achieve. That's why movement types are process-oriented, trying to reach as many outcomes as they can using a master process, and that's why they move very quickly. I'm the same way. And then you have the control types who have a single outcome in mind or a set of outcomes, lots of outcomes, but they have to develop an individual process in order for them to achieve each goal with each outcome. That's how it works, okay? That's why they're also kind of like, slower, because the amount of time it takes for them to develop those processes, it takes a lot more time, folks. That's why they are so slow as control types. They have to go at their own pace, because by going at their own pace and slowing things down and not having any chaos, well, that gives them the time to construct those individual processes for them to reach those individual outcomes every single time, which further dominates the creative process of the ISP. Oh, and they're both responding. Okay, that's another similarity, but at least they're different on movement versus control. And they are informative, which is the ISFP, whereas the ISTP is direct. And I actually coached an ISTP earlier today, and that guy didn't say very much on our session. He said very little. I probably said about 95% of everything in that conversation, maybe 98%. He only spoke about 2% of the time. And that's because they are men or women of very few words. It is especially few amongst the men with ISTPs. They are very direct. They say what they mean what they say. They choose their role in the conversation, and then they say it. And they have chosen their role in the conversation, and then they are giving directives to other people. Go get the milk. Versus the ISFP is like saying, oh, there's no milk, which gives the other person the opportunity, the other party the opportunity to choose their role in the conversation. Okay, am I the milk getter, or am I going to tell you to be the milk getter? And that's because the INFP or the ISFP is trying to convey respect to the other person, whereas the direct person is like, I ain't going to beat around the bush. I already have self-respect, so I'm going to do it this way. And it's not about lacking self-respect for an informative person to be informative in that way. It's just that they are trying to spare the other person of their feelings or their thoughts, etc., so that they can have a more peaceful, more harmonious interaction, which is what informative people are all about. Harmony, right? So that's it for interaction style versus temperament for these two types. Now let's actually dive into the cognitive functions, right? The cognitive functions. So they're similar on their perception functions, but they're different on their decision-making function. Perception-wise, they see the world through the same eyes, but in terms of decisions, they make decisions differently about it than they have before. It's completely different, right? Well, how do we know this? Well, let us look at this right here. Within the ego, we have TI, hero, logic, and then we have FI, hero, right? So you have process, because TI is a processor, and then you have feedback, FI, which is introverted feeling. Very fantastic, right? How does that work? Let's talk about TI. What does TI actually work? So imagine a mind, and you have 1,000 thoughts. 1,000 thoughts going off in infinity. And you're sitting at a desk in this head, and each thought comes up to you, and you're like, all right, true. And that thought goes in the true pile. Next thought comes up, false, goes in the false pile. True, 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 all go in the true pile. False, 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 true, 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 false, and then they spread out evenly, true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false, until all those 1,000 thoughts are finished, And they all have been categorized into two buckets, true and false, right? Logic, that is how logic looks like visually within the mind. Rationale, a little bit different. Imagine 10 tables, each with 100 thoughts at the 10 tables. And they're all simultaneously going true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false at all 10 tables simultaneously, except the decision is made based on majority rules. Was the majority of all the thoughts categorized as false, or was the majority of all thoughts categorized as true? That gives you a very general metric, a label, or a bucket decision, right? We have a lot of data, right? And it becomes sets of data, aka data sets. Whereas the logical thinker, the TI hero, is all about specifics, specific data. Instead of going to sets of data, right? They're all about specifics, right? Focusing on the true, false, the individual pieces, the individual links in the chain, instead of the rational person, the TE user, looking at multiple sets of chains, whereas it's just a link in the chain. You can actually look at how this works in that movie Inc. From 2009. It's an amazing film. INK is how you spell it. Jacob the Pathfinder, he's an ENTP. He's always talking about links in a chain. And those links in the chain are logical thoughts through TI parent with his extroverted intuition hero to guide and light the way, etc. Right? Well, that's how ISTPs work. They're all about specifics. Everything is specific to them. Everything is all about processing. And as TI heroes they have the need to be heard. They have the need to be listened to. It doesn't matter if you agree with them or not. They just want their day in court. That's all it is. You don't necessarily have to agree with them. They just want to be heard. This is especially important for TI inferiors because it's the most sensitive part of their mind. And then if they're not being listened to, guess what? Their demon comes out. Ooh, that'd be bad. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to worry about that, right? Well, guess what? TI hero doesn't really, have that issue in terms of the demon, because then that's the FE inferior problem, but that's a little bit different. TI hero is there, and quite frankly, is the smartest person in the room. The problem with TI hero is, folks, and as smart as ISTPs are, guess what? The problem with TI is the same problem with TI everywhere. Garbage in, garbage out. Because TI is the processor, but the output is the FE, extroverted feeling. So if you have bad TE garbage going into TI, then you have bad FE output, which then produces bad FI feedback. So what do you do? So what does that process look like? All right, so again, this is very pertinent to this discussion because this is how things move between, information moves between these two types as they're compared to each other. FI represents the feedback. So think about it this way. Systems analysis, I'm literally talking about that one systems analysis class that actually was worth something back in university, DeVry University specifically in Fremont, California. Not exactly the best place to go to school, if you know what I mean, especially given the cost of it, which was exorbitant. But I still did it because I was dumb in those days. But here's the thing. Input, process. Output, feedback. The decision-making master system. Input, process, output, feedback. TE, TI, FE, FI. TE, TI, FE, FI. That's how that works. Output is FE because it's a set of values. It's sets of values. Whereas you use data sets of data as your input into the TI processor, right? So it's like you have your stored data, that's your storage, like on a hard drive or in random access memory, right? And that's sent to the CPU. That's your TI. That's your CPU. It's processor, and that's what ISTPs are all about. They're all about process and processing logic, right? It's all logic through that CPU, and then the output from that CPU is values, numbers, right? Values, sets of values, right? Output. It's like a report almost. It's an output of values, and then the user reacts to the set of outputs that they got from the computer with their FI, and it's like, oh, this is a really good output. Oh, this is a bad output, and that is feedback. And that feedback goes all the way back, and they adjust their input, if it's bad output, to get the output that they want. You see what I'm saying? It's how that works. Yes, our brains are literally machines. Our brains are literally computers, and that's how information flows for decision making within our brains. And the TI hero logic, that's how it works. Now, They're pretty smart. TI hero can outthink anyone. The problem is, if they do not have the proper input, doesn't matter. The entire logical chain is completely worthless if at the very beginning, at the root of the logical tree is absolutely worthless. You got to cut out that root and then remake the tree from scratch again, and they will completely rebuild their thinking based on the proper input, right? That's basically the same experience I had when I decided to leave the church. Because all of those inputs from my church background, I realized were fundamentally wrong. And I abandoned them. And I had to completely redo my entire outlook on life with the proper input, right? TE is input, also known as beliefs, also known as data sets, which takes it to the TI, which is the CPU, and processes those things, garbage in, garbage out, right? You got to put in good things to get a good output. The output comes out of FE, and then the user has a reaction, that is FI, that is feedback, right? Why is this important? Well, guess what? ISFPs, they have FI hero. They're all about feedback. And that's why they're so behind the scenes, because they're the last decision in the entire tree. They're the last decision in the entire decision-making system. That's also why INFPs, who also have FI hero, are behind the scenes, right? Because they're the last ones. They exist to provide feedback. INFPs exist to provide feedback for how our race is going and how our society goes. And ISFPs exist to provide feedback about the physical environment, like environmentalism almost. They're providing that feedback and how they feel about how things are in the physical environment. This is why it goes back to that speech about, that guy that says, that is what your art is. Your art is basically you telling the truth about the reality around you, because everything in your reality is literally a lie, and you're providing feedback to that lie of reality so that when you produce art, you're actually telling the truth. That is what it means to an ISFP. That is why they have to have that creative expression with how they feel and how they value themselves. That's another difference between ISFPs and ISTPs. If you're trying to figure out the difference between the two, the reason is, and what you got to watch out for, is that ISTPs are kind of like machines, and they just spend time there thinking about literally everything and processing and crunching everything down. But the ISFP is more of just focused on how they value themselves and what their values are. And their values are based on that system of input, process, output, feedback, okay? Because they exist to be the feedback. And the feedback is the final product, and the values that have been extracted from the input going into the process, coming out with the output, and then they create their value as a result. And that's how people's value systems exist. You want to know where values come from, folks? They come from the FI heroes. That's where values come from. Of course, that's also why tradition comes from SI users, right? Think about that. Values come from FI, traditions come from SI, okay? Why do you think SJs are so traditional? There's a reason for that. See what I'm saying, folks? A little bit different. But FI here is all about how they feel, and they make decisions based on their mood, and they make decisions about whether they feel good about something. And then when they get in a race, they're like, oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. And they make decisions about whether they feel good about things. That's how literally it works every single time. Their value system really determines everything, right? And it's all based on the feedback or the reaction that they're getting from everything around them. It's also as a result of how other people think about them. ISFPs very much value, right, with their FI, how others think of them and their reputation, right? Reputation is everything. Whereas ISTPs don't really care that much about reputation. What they care about is whether or not other people value them or value their thoughts, right? Value their TI hero, right? Whether or not other people think highly or think of the ISFP as a good person, right? They draw their self-worth from these things, right? That's why oftentimes ISFPs are very emotional people. You know what I'm saying, right? So there's a lot there, right? There's a lot, and a lot of people have different approaches or different ways of doing things, and I get it, and I'm cool with that. But again, it's all about decision making, because the ISTP is like, well, if this is true, then this is true, or if that's false, then that's false. If this and that, if this and that, if this and that, over and over and over again. But whereas the ISFP differs, it's all about how they feel. It's all about what they value, what they themselves value. ISTPs don't care about what they value because that's their demon function. It's not important to them, guys. It is not important by any means. It's not important at all. Whereas it is absolutely mega important to the ISFP. So just keep that in mind, folks. These two types make decisions differently. Now, How are they similar? Well, that's in their parent and their child function. Both of them have SE parent. They're always aware of what everyone else around them is doing consistently. In fact, in order for them to actually really know what they want to do, they have to see what everyone else is doing first, or at least research some topics or something so that they know, okay, hey, that's what these people are doing. Okay, hey, yeah, that's what these people are doing. Okay, now I know what I want to do, right? Or, and they seek to have shared experiences. I don't understand why people think like SE users are like, oh, they're always constantly looking for new experiences all the time. No, those are SI users. What SE users are trying to do is have shared experiences. They don't want to go out and have new experiences just by themselves. That's why they go to the bar. They don't drink alone, right? Every now and then they do, and that's how you know they're really unhealthy or they're really messed up. Got to be careful about that when it comes to central SPs, right? But it's all about having a shared experience with other people. That's their approach, and that's why they are very sensual people. And oftentimes, these two types get stuck in alcoholism, get stuck in drug use, get stuck in getting addicted to any kind of behavior, sexuality as well. They have a lot, sexual addictions are very prevalent. Pornography, addiction. Because guess what? SP types, especially these types with their SE parent and their NI child, because I just get to do whatever I want with my NI child because it's innocent. You know what I'm saying, right? Don't make me roll my neck. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so NI child, right? Willpower. They're all about what they want. Willpower, the NI child. And this child, it's like they childishly go through life just wanting like every little thing that they could possibly get. And it's like, ooh, I want that woman. No, I want that woman. No, I want that woman. No, I want that woman. Oh, so many choices. I don't know which one I want to commit to. And then they don't. And then they just end up cycling through women over and over and over again. And then those women get super frustrated. It's like, okay, when is this guy ever going to commit to me? And then 4 years go by, and it's like, oh, are we like actually official? Do we have like the title of boyfriend, girlfriend right now? Or are we like actually going to get married? Like, what are we doing here? And then all of a sudden, these two types, they get scared. And it's like, oh, if I get married or if I give her a ring, that means I'm trapped and I have limited choices. And then they don't commit. And then they've just literally disparaged that woman after 4 years and wasted 4 years of her life for absolutely nothing. Because they're too scared to commit. Because they view things like marriage as, oh, I'm trapped. You see what I'm saying? See, that's a problem with these two types because of NI child, right? They're very childish with what they want, right? That can be an issue, right? So avoid that. So how do they do that? Well, loyal people. SE parent absorbs loyalty from people around them. And here's the thing. They want to give people a good experience. They want to have people's back so that people have their back, right? As I was explaining to an ISTP recently, hey, you need to go out of your way to help people. You need to be there for them because guess what? If you are not freeing other people, if you're not actively freeing other people, who is going to be free to pull you out of your shackles, out of the hole that you will eventually fall into? Who's going to be there to pull you out of that? Who? Well, no one's going to be there if you're already free right now because you're a freedom-based creator and you have freedom in your life and you're not actively using your freedom to help others and free others. You got to tell the truth, right? ISTPs, the truth will set you free. Jesus said that. You might want to listen to him. You know what I'm saying? Because if the truth sets people free, tell people the truth. Criticize them. Improve them. Damn it. You have to. Because then they will be free. And then when you inevitably fall into the ditch, and you will, and you're stuck there, and you're so full of melancholy and depression because you're stuck and you chose it too. You willfully chose to get in the ditch yourself and you got into that hole yourself. Who's going to be there to pull you out of it? Because you're stuck and you're chained to it. Who's going to break your chains? Oh yeah, that's the people that you helped. The people that are loyal to you because you told them the truth and you freed them and now they are there to free you. That is what SE parent is supposed to do. You exist to strengthen others so that they are strong enough to free themselves. And guess what? You're going to find yourselves in binds where you're not strong enough to free yourself, and those people will be there to have your back and pull you out of that situation. That is what you are supposed to do. That is what you want to do. Stop being selfish with your freedom. I get that both these types really enjoy being so freaking controlling of everyone else, especially ISTPs with their ESTJ unconscious, that they have to control literally everyone around them because God forbid their NI child ever not have all the freedom in the world it ever wants. Yay! Well, guess what, folks? they're so controlling because they're trying to prevent other people from getting in the way of their freedom, but their control is not, they're actually becoming, they're slave drivers at that point. The ISTP in that immature situation, they become slave drivers. And guess what? That means, oh wait, they're hypocrites. Wow, someone who really, really wants freedom, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, I'm going to control you. That way I can guarantee that you're not going to get in the way of my freedom of choice. Wow, how selfish of you, ISTPs. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. How about you actually focus on freeing people? That way they're loyal to you. So that way you always have a choice. That way you always have freedom. You want to protect your freedom? Stop controlling people. Instead, help them. Free them by telling them the truth. That is what you want to do, isn't it? See, that's the better choice. Instead of going to your shadow and using your shadow to protect your freedom, go to your ENFJ subconscious. Help other people, teach other people, strengthen other people, free other people. That is what you're supposed to be doing, and that way those people will make sure that you always have freedom of choice. Instead of you controlling them and using a whip. Maybe you should stop running your family like that for once. That'd be nice. My grandfather did that to us. So much so that my mother still recalls the fear that she had, the trembling that she had before my grandfather, still to this day. Even to the point where she's projected that fear onto me, her son, and I'm not even an ISTP. But because I'm so harsh with my TI parent, it reminds me of her father. Yeah, really hard to live that one down. Don't worry, she's taken full responsibility for that, and she doesn't do that to me anymore, thank God. But it's definitely a thing. It's definitely an issue. Okay? Well, over here, ISFPs, they do things a little bit different. They covert contract people with their ESFJ unconscious. They go around covert contracting. Hey, if I scratch your back, you better scratch mine, but I'm not going to tell you about it. It's just inherently expected. And I'm going to go around doing nice things for you. I'm going to create amazing art for you, but you better be there for me when I ask. And it's like there's the strings attached. I'm going to help you so that I know that you're going to help me later. There's always strings attached and they never even communicate it. ISFPs, there's nothing wrong with you communicating that. Make it an overt contract. Hey, I'm going to do this nice thing for you, but I really need you to have my back. There's nothing wrong in asking that. Why do you have to be so silent about it? I get that you silently judge everyone with your FI hero, but seriously, what's the point? How about you just communicate and be overt about it? That would be nice, You're already pretty lovable as it is. You have FI hero. What business do you have not asking for help or having those overt contracts? Stop coverting. There's no point. So use your SE parents responsibly, ISPs. You exist to free others. You exist to cause others to become loyal to you because of the help that you are offering them, right? ISFPs, they do it differently. While this is actually using their FE inferior for the ISTP to actually help people, and then because they're helping people, they become smarter and more intelligent because they're actively helping people, which is fantastic. And they're doing it through their SE parent to ingratiate those people, to cause those people to become stronger and then more loyal to them as a result. ISFPs, it's a little bit different. They're building up their status. They're building up their reputation. And ISFPs can build up the status and reputation and the brands of other people around them, right? And it causes them to be loyal to them because they enjoy the art that the ISFP is able to create. It's amazing. And they have this artistic process and they share that with other people to help people have their freedom of expression with their art. And all of a sudden the world is a better place. Reality is not so bad all of a sudden. See, that's amazing, folks. That's something that I can get behind when it comes to the ISFPs. I love ISFP art. An ISFP named Raylan made this Black Lotus for me. It's art. It's excellent. It's one of my most valuable possessions right here, this Black Lotus. It's fantastic. And it's painted in the bayou, the New Orleans bayou, right? At night, and it glows in the night and it's in the midst of the bayou. Fantastic, right? And that doesn't even exist. It's not like this was a complete sketch, off of the original Black Lotus card from Magic the Gathering. No. It's actually something original to her that she created and brought into reality. That's the power of ISFPs, right? And then all of a sudden, reality is not so bad. It actually calms my demon in such a way where I no longer want to destroy reality because something like this exists. You see what I'm saying, folks? That's the purpose of the ISFP, to tell the truth through their art. Because it's their art that convicts people. It's their art that causes people to be better. Their music, for example, right? Whereas with the ISTP, it's the truth. It's telling the raw truth, the harsh truth to help people and free people. It's like they're breathing fire on people. That's fine. Whereas the ISFP, it's a light breeze, a light wind with their SE parent, right? Understand that. Understand the purpose of that, right? Because TI, it's a double-edged sword, folks. Did you know that? It cuts people down. But you know what? It also cuts the user. It's a double-edged sword. It goes both directions with the cut. It cuts the user and it cuts the target at the same time. Because guess what? TI helps expose the hypocrites. That's the difference, folks. NI child, they're all about what they want. They childishly what they want. They just want all the balloons and candy in the world, and they're gonna go get it. Oh, I have all these choices, etc. And it can cause a lack of commitment on their part, yes, and that can be an issue. But they're all very about what they want. And if you get in the way of an ISFP's freedom of choice, they're going to get you out of their life. And they're either going to covert contract you with the ISFP, or they're going to start controlling you with their ESTJ. Who knows? Hopefully, that ISFP would be able to take charge and actually create a process around that so that you are thinking about things properly and that you're not going to be led astray, and they could take leaders. It's kind of like when an ISFP takes control of a band that they're running, right? And they have leadership for their band when they're creating music together. And the ISFP is creating music and they're conveying the best possible experience. And sometimes that ISFP just has to take charge. Maybe the lead vocalist, who knows? Lead guitarist and vocalist simultaneously. But they just have to take charge to ensure that the direction of the band is moving forward so that it stays about the music, not the cash, not the girls, not the everything, not the drugs. It's for the music, right? How many times have you heard that from bands? That's because it's the ISFP who's saying it, folks. That's where it comes from. Or the ISTP, right? It's all about being caring. You have to care with FE Inferior. They want, but they have to want to care with their NI child. See, that's the difference. It's all about caring, right? Whereas the TE Inferior exists with the ISFPs to make people more intelligent, to make them stronger, to make them more organized, to make them think about things properly. You need to be thinking about the environment properly. You need to be thinking about reality properly. And that's what ISFPs do. And they do it through their art. They create art to inspire a response in people, to provide the input to people so that when people walk into their art galleries, wow. And then there's hidden messages that is put within the ISFP that conveys through their art to the audience, such that it causes the audience to have an emotional response, or actually, no, a thinking response. Wow, I think this art's amazing. Wow, that's a very powerful message. I think we need to change things. I need to change things for the sake of the physical environment, for example. I'm just using that as an example, right? It could be anything. Anything that means something to the ISFP. Because FI, feedback, is about meaning. It is what is meaningful. FI is about what is meaningful, whereas TI is about what is true, the truth, right? Don't forget that, folks. It's very important. FE Inferior exists to help other people, but it is afraid. It's where a person's fear exists, right? They are afraid. They have social anxiety. They are afraid and they feel guilt, and these people can be guilted into doing things, right? Watch out. Just like TE Inferior, the ISFP can be shamed into doing things. You want to motivate a TE Inferior? You shame them. That's what you do. You shame them. Works on INFPs all the time. I do shame INFPs if I have to, and I will publicly destroy their reputation in front of them and in front of all their friends if that means I'm going to absolutely obliterate an unhealthy behavior, because guess what? I am justified in doing so because it's the right thing to do. Same thing here, social anxiety of the ISTP. All they need is other people to value them and value what they're doing. They need other people to feel good about them, to give them recognition for all their hard work, all of their craft, all of the actions that they take, because ISTPs are all about actions. It's really hard for an ISTP to tell a woman, I love you. They show them with their SE parent through actions. I'm saying I love you because I fixed the leak underneath your sink, or because I changed the oil in your car, or because I switched out your tires, or I put air in your tires. You know, that's how I'm saying I love you. They have a really hard time to say it because it's their SI critic, and they have to commit in saying I love you, folks. It's really hard for ISTPs to do that because it's all about commitment. And they're so scared of commitment because they're afraid that this person's not always going to value me. And is this really what I want? Is this person really loyal to me? Is it true, T.I.? Is it true? Is it true? Prove it to me. Is it proven? Is it proven that she'll always be there for me? Is it proven that she'll always value me? Is it proven that I can be loyal to her because I know that? Wow. Is it proven that she'll always be intelligent and have my back? That she won't just make decisions without listening to me? Will she always listen to me? All these questions plague the ISTP, and until those questions are answered, pretty hard for them to commit. Or look at T inferior. Shame. Shame. You can shame TE inferior into action. That's the point. It's because they take their reputation so seriously. Reputation is everything to the ISFP. They want people to think highly of them and think highly of their work. It's all about other people thinking highly of them. Those thoughts are everything to them, right? It's all about that. That's where the rubber meets the road. And they also are ending up able to use their T inferior to create a creative process such that other people can replicate their creative process to do similar art. Whereas FE inferior is about improving other human beings and making them better, right? Such that they can teach human beings to be better and to be improved. Teaching is what makes the ISTP smarter, right? Whereas sharing their process and their creative process and allowing other people to replicate their creative process makes the ISFP a better person, a more good person, a person of even higher moral fiber and standards, right? That's the difference. But they're just afraid of other people thinking or changing their opinions of them on a whim. They're so afraid. They're so afraid, right? So what do you do in that situation? Well, you tell them that you think highly of them, obviously, and you prove it to them. Prove it to them that you think highly of them by speaking highly of them in front of other people, especially people they respect. Their peers, folks, their peers. Speak highly of them in that regard. They need that. Or for the FE inferior, you take away an ISTP's social anxiety when you show that you value them in front of the people that they respect or care about, or amongst their peers. I remember one time working for my ISTP boss at the hospital, and I remember giving him credit for doing a great job and solving a problem. He was on cloud nine. It was the best thing ever. He loved that. And he's like, wow, this is somebody that I've invested in. I'm very thankful to have him on the team because he had my back. He's the only one here that noticed all of my hard work. Or T inferior, wow, this person is speaking very highly of me to other people around me. I can actually feel good about myself. I feel really, really good. And these people are respecting me. My status is going up. My brand is going up. My reputation is going up. Wow, I must be a really good person. I can feel like a really good person. But they don't open their mouth sometimes because they're so behind the scenes, because they're so scared to open their mouth because they're afraid people will think less of them based on them sharing their opinion. That's the problem, because T inferior is all about opinion. And I just want someone to listen to me about my opinion. Opinion is everything to these people. And they're so afraid that their little voice will be squelched out by everyone else talking, so they don't even bother talking. So you have to go up to the FI heroes, especially ISFPs, and extract it out of them. Make them tell you, and tell them that it's okay. You're not going to be disloyal to the ISFP by them telling them, by them being honest and saying how they feel. Ask them how they feel, and they'll tell you. Their Nemesis functions, a little bit different, okay? So the ISFP is like, I'm so and they're like, wow, you're so caring towards me, right? You're very, very caring towards me. And sometimes FI hero can be really selfish sometimes. It's all about their mood and how they feel consistently. Then they sometimes feel like they're too selfish, and that the ISFP ends up believing that they're not caring enough. And that's an issue that they have. That's one difference between the ISTP and the ISFP. It's a little bit different with ISTPs. They're so intelligent with what they know with their TI hero that they get worried that other people around them are not intelligent. And this leads to do it right yourself syndrome. If you want something done right, do it yourself. And they see someone who's failing, they go over to that person, they interrupt that person when they're failing, and then they do that thing for that person, and then that person feels alienated by them. Great. And they don't appreciate it. And then the ICP gets mad with FE inferior, you didn't appreciate what I just did for you. When that person's like, well, you just interrupted me the entire time. That's great. That's not how it works, folks. The process that the ICP needs to follow that's actually healthy, well, this is what they do. They wait for that other person to fail in the task, and then they go to that person and ask that person permission to help them. If that person says no, then the ISTP moves on. The ENFJ subconscious needs to be aware of something very important. When the pupil is ready, the master will appear. That's the point. You cannot force your help on anyone, ISTPs. It is arrogant to believe so. Stop it. Stop doing that. It's annoying. Stop alienating people, ISTPs, please. Recognize that there's other people who are not as intelligent as you, but guess what? If you get the wrong input, then you can end up being a fool like everybody else. Make sure your input's correct. You better verify. Trust what people say, but verify just in case, right? ISTPs. I get that you're worried that other people are not intelligent, and that's fine, but you have to give them the opportunity to fail. They cannot understand the strength that they have until they're willing to be weak, until they understand and accept that they are weak, and they need you to strengthen them first. That's how it works. That's how it works. And then SI critic and NE trickster. Both these types have this. We already talked about NE trickster. They're very weak to knowing the intentions of other people. They just do not know the intentions of others. It's a serious issue that they have, okay? And they need other people to protect them from the fact that other people's intentions, other people may have dark intentions around them, right? That's a serious problem. How do they solve that issue, right? Well, by having other people around them who are extrovert intuitive, who are in their corner because their SIs are loyal to the ISTP and the ISFP because their SE parents have given them such a good experience and made them stronger human beings that they are forever loyal to those ISPs. That way they protect the ISPs from negative or bad intentions from other people. That's amazing. And will mete out justice on the ISP's behalf if the ISP is threatened or attacked or sustains damage. That's the point. SI critic, guess what? These two types, they live so much in the moment with their SE parent, they're very forgetful. They're both very forgetful. It's another similarity. They're very forgetful. And these two types wouldn't even admit they're very forgetful because from their point of view, my memory is so amazing. Yeah, your short-term memory is really amazing with SE parent, but good luck with your long-term memory. You're really forgetful. But they still, for some reason, think to this day that they have amazing memory. I have the memory of an elephant, said my ISTP boss at the hospital I used to work at. No, you don't. So what you have to do is take a list of everything that they say, date it and timestamp it, and then when they forget something, throw it in their face and prove to them that they actually really are forgetful. That's how you do it, right? They live in email. They live in text messages because they need those dates and times to be able to remember things. They end up storing their memory in physical objects and notebooks so that they don't forget. It's especially worse for NTJs. They have it even worse. It's also really bad for NFJs as well, NJs in general, and their memory has it even worse than STPs or SPs or ISPs for that matter. SI critic. Also, SI critic, once they see that the other person is loyal to them in their relationships and friendships, their SE parent, they become diehard loyal themselves with their SI critic. And they do their duty by their loved ones, by their family. And they have insane loyalty. That is unbreakable loyalty. These two types do, right? But it's only after seeing the other person being loyal to them first. And it is consistently demonstrated loyalty. That's the point. And then the FI demon of the ISTP, which only comes out, the FI demon for the INFP superego, it only comes out where they end up destroying the reputation of other people, where they end up taking them down, where they end up plotting and destroying the future of those around them in their life. Everything I've built for you, I'm going to burn it to the ground right now because you don't appreciate anything I've ever done for you. If you want to avoid the demon, you have to appreciate the ISTP, give them credit where it's due, and thank them. Even if right now in the moment they don't deserve it, thank them anyway. Because the things that they have done for you, that SE parent, they have things to show for it. ISPs need to have, their SE parents need to have something to show for their work. If they do not have a result to show for it, they're not going to want to do it. That SE data needs to be there. They need to have something to show for their hard work. That's how it works, folks. They need that. Without it, they're kind of screwed. Okay? Very, very, very important. Okay? Very important. All right? So just understand that FI demon, you always give appreciation for everything the ISTP does. Now, the TI demon, if you don't want INTP demon, where they're like, oh, I know the truth. You're not listening to me at all. You're not giving me my day in court. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, you think that little of me after all these things I've done? You're destroying my reputation. You don't care about my status. You don't care about my name. You don't care about my brand. You don't care about my legacy. Fine. We're just going to do what I think now, because we've been going along all this time with what you think, but now we're going to do things what I think. And the truth is, everything is going to burn, and I'm going to burn down everything. I'm going to burn down your life, and I'm going to invent this amazing artistic guillotine, and you have no idea that you're walking into the path of it. And then, oh, there goes your head. Yeah. Well, that happens. Why? Because the T inferior is ignored. You don't ignore that. Tell them consistently that you think highly of them. Help them increase their name and their fame, right? Fame is attached to TE. That's how it is. Status, folks. Do not harm the status or the reputation or the good name of the ISFP. They need and they thrive on their good name. So help promote their good name. Don't destroy their name. Don't do that in front of other people. If you do, their demon will come out and they will burn everything to the ground. You don't want that to happen, folks. You never want that to happen. These are great people. ISPs are amazing. The world cannot function without them. We need people like this. I mean, like, they do the most dangerous jobs too, you know, especially ISTPs. The garbage man, for example, the man who is working on the skyscraper 20 stories up wearing a harness and hoping it doesn't break and where he'll die. The ones who are crabbing Alaskan king crab, they do those insanely dirty or those insanely dangerous jobs. That's these people. We can't live without them, folks. You need to give them the status. You need to give them credit. Credit is very important to T inferior. Give credit where it is due. Give recognition where it is due for the ISTP. They deserve it. Even if right now, they might be dicks to you right now, but guess what? That doesn't matter if they're dicks to you right now. What did they do for you 20 years ago? And if you're an SE user and you don't remember all those things that these ISPs have done for you, you might want to check yourself. Because if you can remember at least one good thing that they've done for you, give them credit where it is due, or give them recognition where it is due, and I guarantee you, you'll have a better relationship. And then all of a sudden, the hard times that are happening right now will start disappearing. Show them respect. Give them credit, give them recognition where it is due. I guarantee you'll have a much better relationship with them, and they'll never forget it. As long as you're consistent. And then there's no need to forget or even remember anything, because they can rely on you having that behavior over and over and over then to always have their back, because they want to have your back. But they're just not sure that if they go in the ditch, if you're going to be there to pull them out of it. That's the difference, folks. That's what really makes the difference. That's where the rubber meets the road. If you found this lecture useful, helpful, educational, enlightening, please subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Leave a like and a comment while you're at it if you have any questions about these two types. If you want to get in on our private lectures, get on our Patreon at patreon.com/csjoseph and get on the gold tier, and then you can get on our private lectures. It takes money for what we're doing here, so we have premium content available to be able to fund this company. I mean, I have people working for me, like their livelihood depends on this. We are actually trying to scale up our production here, and we're getting a new studio very soon and multiple camera angles. All this stuff costs money, folks, and we are here trying to change the world for the better, but we cannot do that without some financial support. So please support us as we're moving forward. Outside of that, if you'd like to get on our Discord server so you can get your questions answered on our Q&A live streams, the link is below in the description. Just go to csjoseph.life/social and get on our Discord server to be able to make that appropriate. Also, we have a coaching sale going on right now, and I think we also have like a t-shirt design contest. You go to our Instagram, which is @cs.joseph, and find out more about that, or you can ping any of the modsies on our or direct message them on our Discord server, and they'll be happy to assist you as well. So there you have it, folks. This is season 10, episode 6, and I hope you enjoyed it. Sometimes I get a little harsh with these things, but you know what? I got to be harsh with every type, because if I don't, everyone's just going to think they have unicorns and rainbows falling out of their ass instead of like actually, doing this thing known as real life. So with that being said, folks, I'll see you guys tomorrow night for Q&A. Have a good night.